For those who don't think that sustainable catering can be served on a large scale, the London 2012 Olympics will see the largest mass-scale catering event in peacetime anywhere in the world ever. And they've written this food vision, as you see here, an extract from. The food isn't subsidised, and the organisers have made a public commitment to making sure the food is affordable. Their benchmark standards require that all 40 tonnes of eggs used in that fortnight will be free range. All bananas, tea, coffee, sugar and chocolate will be fair trade, and all the fish will be demonstrably sustainable. Furthermore, a percentage of the food has to comply with RSPCA Freedom Food Standards. Sadly, we couldn't do anything about the commercial sponsors and the food that they might be serving. Last year, our project was independently evaluated, and at the end of that stage, the evaluators found that contracts had been signed for annual purchase of sustainable produce to a total value of 1.5 million. When we talk about sustainable produce in this context, we're talking about free-range chicken, free-range eggs, pork and bacon reared from pigs in Britain, demonstrably sustainable fish, etc. Sustainable contracts already out to tender being taken into account, the overall impact of the project is significantly greater, it said, indicating that the project has resulted in increased spending on sustainable food around £6 million. A year later, we can expect that figure to have substantially risen. However, as has already been hinted at this afternoon, whilst what we're doing is well and good, we firmly believe that legislation is needed. Fabulous things are happening, but we can't rely on voluntary measures or good practice simply spreading from our brilliant award winners or on a national scale from the likes of Robin Gourley or Mike Duckett or Roy Heath, names which may be familiar to you. After all their achievements may be washed away by the impending budget cuts. In March this year, we at Sustain updated our report on hospital food called Yet More Hospital Food Failure. The bill rises to 54 million and still counting. This revised report estimated that more than £54 million has now been spent by government on failed voluntary initiatives to improve hospital food. The report also states that government has ignored frequent warnings by experts that voluntary attempts have failed to achieve lasting progress. Why doesn't change last? Because good food isn't built into the way that we commission catering for hospitals, care homes, prisons, local authorities and the armed forces. It needs to be somebody's job. There need to be standards. The Good Food for Our Money campaign at Sustain, a sister project to our own, is therefore supporting Joan Whalley, MP for Stoke-on-Trent North, in her effort to introduce to Parliament the Public Bodies Sustainable Food Bill, which will require government to create health, environmental and social standards for all public sector food, develop these standards over time, and set out a framework by which the standards will be introduced by all public sector organisations. And you can go to our website for more detail about that, and I believe Alex Jackson, who's the coordinator of that project, is also here today. In conclusion, we want you to write a food policy if you don't already have one. As I say, we're very happy to help with that. Sign up for Sustainable Fish City, again, no cost, all good PR. And most of all, to collaborate. And as I say, we can help, but please be quick, because I'm only guaranteed to be here, in the office, until March 11. Thank you very much. Yeah, sure, yeah. Something I'll explain later. Yeah. Has anyone got any questions I'd like to ask? Yes.
Hello, I'm John Carrick, a farmer from Norfolk. You seem to be majoring on organic and possibly even vegetarian.
Oh, no.
And dare I say, with your support from the Soil Association, that's hardly surprising. But do you not recognise that there are plenty of conventional farmers out there who...
I absolutely, wholeheartedly, completely, 100% do.
Don't you think you're compromising your position by accepting assistance from a pressure group?
No. No,
We
I
do.
wouldn't say that. First of all, I would dispute that we are championing organic food. We don't have any problem with organic food, but in the public sector, we recognise that it's beyond the bounds of the average public sector budget. And as for vegetarianism, again, we certainly don't, we have no problem at all with vegetarian food, but what we are saying is to eat less, but better. So in fact, we're supporting British farmers because they have to adhere to higher, as you well know, standards than certainly the rest of Europe and probably the rest of the world. So we're saying, eat less of it and invest in British farming. Does that answer your question?
Well, if legislation is needed, are you going to do something about the fact that only 65% of temperate foods, which can be grown in this country, in fact, that is all we are growing, and we're importing the rest, mainly due to the power of the supermarkets and the need to find the cheapest source, the cheapest food from all around the world. That's the major issue, which is preventing local procurement and local support for rural industries.
Yeah, certainly. We are lobbying government to take food very seriously and to consider the impact of food and to consider food security.
Thank you.
Any more?
I believe that the bill that you mentioned was having its second hearing last Friday, and I wasn't sure what had happened about that.
Well, it was heard. Well, there was the Friends of the Earth had the Sustainable Livestock Bill beforehand in the morning. Unfortunately, some MPs took it upon themselves to talk it out, to filibuster, if you will, and in fact regaled us with poetry and such like. So unfortunately, the democratic system was not at its best last Friday morning, and the bill, the Sustainable Livestock Bill, was not voted on, and our public sector bill was not even heard. Hopefully, it will be heard in January.
Hi, Rosie. Thank you. Kim Haywood, National Beef Association. Rosie, I have a bit of an issue with your sustainability, or the fourth bullet point particularly. Yeah. Eating beef is a very, very important component of managing obesity. And I don't think it's appropriate to link that with decreased beef consumption or animal products. And I also need you to clarify the livestock industry only contributes 8% to greenhouse gas targets.
Targets?
So, yeah, exactly.
Emissions?
Emissions. So in other words, if an animal breathes out methane, which is quite powerful, 54 kilos, soils absorb up to 8,000 kilos of CO2 equivalent. Yes. So they are not major contributors to greenhouse gas emissions.
It's not just the cow as it stands in the field, it's the whole process from...
Exactly, and that's what needs to be recognised.
Okay.
I think it's a bit irresponsible to say you should decrease consumption of animal products.
We would dispute that. Did you say that in order to avoid obesity, you have to eat beef? Did I hear that?
No. Oh. Eating beef is a critical component of managing weight problems.
Do you work for... So what, can I just clarify who you work for again?
The Beef Association.
Oh, the Beef Association. I would dispute what you're saying. We don't have to eat meat protein at all in our diets. Obviously, it's fine if you...
That's incorrect.
Okay.
You shouldn't be excluding any group from the food plate.
No, absolutely. So just to clarify, we are not purporting vegetarianism. We want people to eat less but better in terms of animal welfare meat. And that's all I can say, really. We are not saying you should move to a vegetarian diet. But what you're saying, obviously, you're required to say, I would dispute that, but I wouldn't like to... Yeah, can we... Any other questions? No.
Good T-bone steak and a bottle of Coke.
Yeah, exactly.
Does anybody agree with that?